Hello and welcome. You're listening to Bits and Pieces for the Summer Camp Newbie by me, Bethany Wright. Hello, thank you for joining me today, wherever you are joining me from around the world. Today's episode is all about my personal camp story and how I ended up at summer camps. So I have spent the past 10 summers working at summer camps, and this is just going to talk to you about my journey, all about how I got to camp, about how I got placed, then my change of heart, and where my journey went to next. So strap on in. It is a story. It's the past decade of my life, which is wild when you think about it that way. But my story starts all the way back in the summer of 2012. So picture me, I've just finished my first year of university and I'm back in my hometown for the summer. And I was trying to get a summer job just like everybody in my hometown that have come back from university. I was handing out resumes everywhere, but I didn't have much experience. The only thing really on my resume was volunteering, volunteering at schools, volunteering at dance, that type of thing. And basically, I was handing out resumes, got really, really good feedback, but they were just like, you're only in town for the summer. Sorry, we can't hire you. They basically just didn't want to put in the effort and the work to hire me for me to then go, bye, see you at September now, I'm going back to university, which I totally understand. So fast forward to Christmas 2012. I am back in my hometown, and that blah feeling that I felt all summer was kicking in again. You know, those weird days in between Christmas and New Year where you're like, don't know what day it is. Yeah, it was that time of year. And I was just thinking to myself, I do not want the repeat of last summer when I come back and sit in this room again. I just don't want that. I want to be active. I want to have a job this summer, and I want something to look forward to. So I literally got out my laptop and I Googled jobs abroad. And I clicked the first link, literally jobs abroad. The first link was a summer camp link. And, I did a little bit of research and it was like, oh, summer camp, that would be cool. And looked at different agencies that were coming up on the first page of Google. And I literally landed on CCUSA's page and clicked apply now there and then. And I filled out my application form there and then. Didn't talk to anybody. I was like literally in my room, door closed, laptop on my knee, something on the TV, can't even remember. And it was totally an impulse. Literally, as I finished the application, closed my laptop, and went downstairs for a cup of tea, and literally just nonchalantly told my parents, I just applied to work abroad next summer, to work at summer camp. They were shocked. Like, they were like, what do you mean, like, abroad? Like, what is summer camp? They had no idea. And I was like, yeah, I don't have a job yet. I'm in the system, and my application is there, and there's a jobs fair next month, and I'm thinking I'm going to go and meet some camp directors in person, and hopefully I'll get a job there on the spot. And they were like, okay, that sounds fine, but if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. So they were supportive, but obviously apprehensive to begin with because I'm their youngest daughter, and I just, with that on a whim, applied to work in another country. So that was, yes, brave, but also, what is she doing? But they came around. So a month later, job fair rolls round. I am at university. I travel to Leeds. So this is where the job fair is. It's a snowy weekend. The car is sliding all over the road, but slowly and safely I made it. I queued up, and they basically just confirm you are who you say you are in your application, and then you're like released to the wolves. There's like over 30 camps like set up like in little booths around this massive conference hall, and the atmosphere is electric. Like, everybody that is there is wanting to be hired to work at their camp, and the people that are there are camp directors and people that work full-time for their camps that have flown over from America to interview these young adults in this room. It's a really weird concept. It's really loud. It was really overwhelming. Everyone like had big smiles on their faces because they wanted to make an amazing first impression. And I remember I interviewed with one camp right at the beginning of the day. I researched online beforehand. I really, really wanted to go there. Their website was great. Their social media was amazing. And they said, "Oh, are we the first camp you've interviewed with?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was so honest. "Yeah." And they were like, "Go and interview elsewhere and then come back to us at the end of the day. Like, you need to see what else is out there to make sure that we're the right one for you." And I was kind of like, oh, I was like, well, they don't want me. Like, why would they send me away? If I'm what they want, then why did they just send me away? And I ended up not going back to there because it left me with a weird feeling in my stomach. Not to say that they weren't going to hire me if I came back. Just I thought that was a strange concept. I've never like come across that before. So that left me with a ugh, okay, I'm not going to come back. It's fine, you don't want me type mentality. Which in the long run that worked out better, but in the moment I was just really down hard on myself. So I like would queue up and go and talk to other camps, but they just weren't the same. And then I came across like lots of other camp presentations, and then there was like this camp that had a bit of a quieter stall because it was a specialized camp. And I like walked over and was just like chatting to the camp director and was like, "Oh, so what's your camp about?" Inquiring all about it. And I hadn't heard about this camp at all, but they had a video going on, they had brochures, and they were the only camp at this campus fair that had returning staff members at their booth, which I thought spoke volumes. So I spoke to the returning staff members that were also at these jobs fairs last year, the year before, and was like, "Yeah, we were like you." And then we got placed here, and the camp's great. It's a smaller camp, it's a weekly camp, it's a specialized camp, but everybody's in the same boat. 125 staff, and we're all from around the world. So all of us are new. And to me, I was like, okay, amazing. Like, everybody is in the same boat. That is phenomenal. Like, everybody will feel the same and look out for each other, and there's a real camaraderie and community about that. So casually I was chatting and they introduced me to the camp director, and I was hired on the spot just from a pure conversation. And that camp was a specialized weekly camp called IGC, International Gymnastics Camp in Pennsylvania. So, and it was there. I had my letter, my acceptance letter, and it was amazing. So from that jobs fair up until May when I flew out, I would get a random email here, a random email there, to fill out this form or make sure your passport's up to date, make sure you book flights, and make sure that you're ready to arrive at camp on May 31st, this, that, and the other. And then I had to go to an embassy, the US embassy, and that was a whirlwind that I've never done before, but we'll get into that in a different episode. So I get my visa so I can work at summer camp, and I go. Have an amazing summer. It was hard, don't get me wrong, but it was an amazing summer, and I got the itch. I traveled afterwards, but after that first summer, I was like, I have the travel bug. Like, I'm itching to go somewhere else. So I went back on trusty Google and was basically like, so where else do they do summer camp? Where else do they do jobs abroad? And the two countries that I whittled it down to was Canada or Australia. So I was in my final year of university at this point. And I was like, so after I graduate, I can go and do a year in Australia. Okay, that sounds good. Okay. What do I need to do? Okay, and like just make sure I do this, that. Very similar process to the American summer camp process, in all honesty, to get your work visa in Australia. So it didn't really faze me. And then I looked at the Canada application, and it was a summer camp program in Canada. And to me, I was like, right, okay, yeah, let's do that. And then I can apply to the Australia one. Like, I had it all set out in my head. And so I applied through a camp agency that CCUSA recommended me to, and that was Camp Canada. They were called Camp Canada by NIQuest at the time. And it was great. I put up my application. The fact that I worked at a summer camp the year before actually worked wonders, and I got hired. And I got hired at this co-ed traditional summer camp that was also a Jewish camp, and that was Camp Walden in Ontario. Now, when I heard that it was a Jewish camp, I was a little bit scared because I'm not Jewish. I was like, oh, what if it's really religious-y? What if, like, I have to do certain things and that type of thing? Like, I went to a Christian primary school, and we had assemblies, and we had to sing hymns every day, and we had to say prayers and that sort of thing. So in my head, that's what I had for a summer camp. But I was far from it, very far from it. They just do a little Friday night service, and they have Shabbat dinner, and that's what they do. So it was very, very different from what I thought. But it was a totally different vibe. I'm not saying that it was good or bad. It was different. It was a totally different vibe to the American summer camp I went to. So the Canadian summer camp, like, got me hooked. There's no other way that I can say it. It got me hooked. I even extended my contract to work the September month as the camp opens up for private rentals and school groups and conferences and you name it, they do it. And I loved it that much that I extended my contract to the end of September. And it was amazing. I got to see camp in this totally different light. I got to be out and about. I got to work jobs that I never thought that I would do at camp. I got to see this site be used as an amazing beauty that it is, and see other people see the beauty in the site. And I think that was truly, truly special. And I went home and was like, right, to the real world we go. Graduation. I was lucky that my graduation was in November and not in the summer, so I could actually do summer camp again for the second year. And yeah, it was a wild ride. I went to, so now we're in 2015. I have been hired for my first professional job, and needless to say, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I don't know if it was just I bigged it up more in my head. I don't know if it was just that the thought that I'm now an adult. I don't know what came over me. I just hated it. And I emailed the Canadian camp in April and was like, I know this is a long shot, but do you have any jobs this summer? And they emailed back going, yes, of course. It's in dance and fitness. It's a specialty. You'll have the best time. But we have a job if you want to come back. Ding, ding, ding. Loved it. Handed in my notice at work. Booked a flight to come out in 3 weeks. And I was on camp property from the 20th of May and worked their shoulder program, similar to their September program, where they hired out their site for school groups, graduation trips, adult summer camps, that type of thing, rentals, you name it. Set up camp, did camp, and was there, and I've been back to camp every summer since. I am very, very fortunate that my lifestyle has allowed me to go back to camp every year, because I know it's not possible for some people. I know that. And I am very, very lucky in the fact that I found a summer camp that clicked. It's amazing. And listening to people, they're like, yeah, I had the best summer, but they've never gone back. And I understand some people it could be because, they got a real job, I say in air quotation marks, and maybe just life panned out so they couldn't return. And that's okay too. But I'm very, very grateful that I spent my 20s working at summer camps and growing myself and learning new life skills and growing leadership skills and learning communication skills and then going into a leadership role and helping other people find their potential and seeing them grow. And it's a truly full circle moment when you see people that were your campers and now you're working beside them in a leadership role. And that is truly, truly fantastic. I have just done my 9th summer in Canada, and it's wild to think that this plucky 20-year-old, 19-year-old, fresh off the boat, very homesick, didn't know if she could stick it out in America, has worked for a decade in the summer camp industry and is still going. And I have a true passion for it and I love it. And I am so happy that my passion is bringing this podcast to you guys. And so, yeah, that is my personal story about summer camp. And if I would love to hear your story about summer camp, because I think it's amazing how different people find it summer camp in different ways. So please hit me up on social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Brit in the Six, and please share those stories, start a conversation. I love talking to this community about how we got started, and yeah, can't wait to hear all about your stories. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Bits and Pieces for the Summer Camp Newbie by me, Bethany. You can find me on social media. I am Brit in the Six on all my socials. Also, you'll be able to find me on my website where my blog is, www.britinthesix.com. Thank you very much and see you next time.